Hi there everyone and welcome to PCI Tech TV. We're here today at the Canadian Symposium on Remote Sensing in Ottawa, Canada. And I'm here today with James Lutes, who's working on some pretty interesting stuff. James, can you tell me about the presentation you gave this week?
Sure, I gave a presentation yesterday to describe the work that we've been doing to process historical air photos. It seems that there's been some interest in this topic lately. We've been working with a couple of agencies, one in Alberta and one in Minnesota, who wish to process the large volume of historical air photos that they have sitting in archive.
So what type of volume are we talking about? How many images do these agencies typically have?
Well, if you look around the different state and federal and provincial agencies, we can see that at the Canadian federal level, for instance, the National Airphoto Library contains about 6 million air photos. Alberta contains about 1.7 million, BC has a couple of million. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has about 9 million photos.
So these photos that they have now, how are they stored and what are the limitations in terms of what people can do with them?
Well, basically they're being stored as cans of film or boxes of prints, and they're stored in large warehouses. So for the public at large, they're pretty much inaccessible.
So in order to get them, you basically have to go to the Airphoto Library and ask for particular images and so on, or are they scanned? Or
they're not all scanned, and that's part of the problem. Because the storage is expensive, actually, a lot of the agencies that contain these data, they're starting to go through the process of digitizing their holdings. But this is going to take a long time, of course, and most agencies are just starting to do this now.
And so what does PCI do in terms of that? Does PCI provide the actual scanning in addition to the processing, or if people have historical images and they're interested in this product, how does PCI get involved?
Typically, our role would be to interface with the agency that has access to the scanned photos. So it's the agency that owns the photography that typically would do the scanning or contract the scanning. And then they would be hiring another company to do the air photo correction. And we would interface then with that company who needs tools to help them do that.
And if the typical process now for doing some of this correction, what are people doing currently? Like if they're not using the technology that we offer, what would be their process for getting it corrected?
Well, typically what they would have to do is find a reference data set, like maybe a set of road vectors or an orthomosaic of more recent data. And an operator has to go and manually identify on each image several control points. And for a project of several hundred images, this can actually take several weeks to complete.
So manually going through and picking out points. So how does PCI change that? What is the technology that we develop with historical air photos? How does the workflow change?
Well, we've already had good tools to allow users to automatically measure ground control and tie points. And what we've added are a workflow that allows the user to script the operations that they need to do in order to start initially with quite coarsely geocoded data and to use our tool to automatically measure the ground control and to measure tie points. And the way we do it, it's a multi-step process. So they can start with data that's off by a kilometer or more. They can go through a course alignment process to bring it within a few hundred meters, and they can go through a second process to bring it down to the accuracy level that they need. And This happens mostly automatically with some steps in between to allow the user to help guide the process.
What if there's nothing? There's just scanned JPEGs. How do you get started?
Well, the user would have to identify the project area. And you typically would know this because with the photography that was collected, they have some information about what the original flight plan was. So they could know that it's a certain municipality or a certain county. And so the user could then identify maybe a starting and ending point for each flight line. And from that we have enough information to then go in and fill in approximate values for the rest of the images in the flight line. And then from that it can go into our normal process.
Okay. And in terms of besides the automation, is there other benefits to using the technology that we've developed? Is it faster? Is it?
Well, the automation brings increased speed, of course. Our customers are finding that their projects have been going from several weeks down to several days. And so for them, this is a fantastic improvement in their productivity.
Great. And what do you think some of the applications are for this historical imagery? Why are people interested to bring this data to life?
Well, certainly people that are interested or working in the environmental or forestry domains, and even for urban planning, it's very important to know what the baseline was some decades ago so that they can analyze trends to see how the land is changing.
Is it possible to pull information out of the historical images once they're corrected and mosaicked and so on? Can you perform analysis on them?
Oh yes, absolutely. The key is to get it positionally accurate enough so that you can do year-over-year temporal comparisons. And we're able to bring it to a level such that it's possible to start using more automated classification techniques.
Even on panchromatic imagery? Or?
Yes, it depends on what feature you're trying to extract, of course. But yeah, anything you could do with a more recent panchromatic aerial photo, you could do with the older data as well.
Well, thanks a lot, James. That's great. Great update on that technology. And if you want to find out more information about the historical workflow, we have presented a webinar in the past, and it's available at pcigeomatics.com/webinars. And thanks again for watching PCI Tech TV, and thanks for your time, James.
Thank you.